Jesse Livermore made $100 million in a single day. Then he lost it all. Every penny. Not once. 3 times. And the reason he kept losing everything had nothing to do with reading charts wrong, or picking the wrong stocks, or missing some technical signal. It had everything to do with one habit. A quiet, invisible habit that lives inside almost every trader sitting in front of a screen right now, including, probably, you. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what that habit is, how it works inside your brain in real time, and the one shift that separates traders who last decades from traders who disappear quietly after 18 months. But I'm not giving you the answer yet, because if I do, you'll think you already know it, and that reaction is actually proof of the problem. Before we go any further, if you've ever held a losing trade longer than you should have, and told yourself it was still valid, this video was made for you. Hit subscribe right now, because what's coming in the next few minutes will explain every account you've ever damaged, and I promise you, it won't feel like advice, it'll feel like a confession. The year is 1929. Jesse Livermore is the most feared speculator on Wall Street. He has made and lost fortunes that most people couldn't count. Newspapers call him the boy plunger. Other traders whisper his name like a warning. And yet, in the middle of all that success, he keeps doing the same thing. He keeps breaking his own rules. Not because he doesn't know them. He wrote them. He keeps breaking them because of something deeper than strategy. Something no chart can fix. Most people who talk about Livermore focus on his entries, his timing, his legendary short position before the crash of 1929. But that's the surface. The real story, the one that explains why a man with that level of skill went bankrupt 3 times, is a psychological story. And it starts with a feeling most traders know intimately, but almost none of them name correctly. Stop, because everything you think you know about trading discipline is probably missing the most important piece. Here's what actually happens when a trade goes against you. You entered for a reason. You had a thesis. You studied the setup. You waited for confirmation, you sized your position, and then the market moved the wrong way. Now, in that exact moment, something shifts. And it's not just frustration, it's something more personal. Because your brain doesn't experience a losing trade as a financial event. It experiences it as a verdict, a judgment about your intelligence, your skill, your right to be in this game. That's the first layer of this trap, and it's subtle enough that most traders never even see it happening. The second layer is where things actually get dangerous. Because once your brain frames the loss as a personal verdict, staying in that losing trade, or worse, adding to it, stops being a financial decision. It becomes a defense of your identity. You're no longer trading the market, you're arguing with it. You're trying to prove something. Livermore called this the most expensive thing a trader can do. Not expensive in dollars, expensive in survival. There's a specific moment, just a few seconds long, where a disciplined trader becomes a gambler. And I want you to picture it exactly. The stop gets hit. The position closes at a loss. Your hand is still on the mouse. The screen is still open. And for about 4 seconds, there's this silence, this pause, where you could close the laptop and walk away. Or you could re-enter. Bigger, faster, angrier. Most traders in that 4-second window tell themselves they're being analytical. They say, the setup is still valid. The market overreacted. This is actually a better entry. And maybe technically, some of that is true, but they're not making that decision with their prefrontal cortex. They're making it with the part of the brain that can't tolerate being wrong. That's revenge trading, not the dramatic version people describe where you blow up your account in a single session, the slow version. The version where you take 3 extra trades a week that you would never have taken if your ego wasn't involved. The version that quietly erodes your edge over months, until one day you look at your account history and can't explain what happened. Here's the part that almost no one talks about on trading channels. The market doesn't care about your analysis. Not because your analysis was wrong, it might have been perfect, but because the market is not a grading system. It doesn't reward correct thinking. It rewards correct behavior. And those are not the same thing. If this distinction just landed for you, if something in that sentence clicked, share this video with one trader, not because it helps me, because that trader is probably sitting on a loss right now that this understanding could save them from. Now we're at the most important part. This is where Livermore's real secret actually lives. After his second bankruptcy, Livermore started keeping a journal. Not a trading journal in the way most people mean, not a log of entries and exits. A psychology journal. He was documenting his emotional state before, during, and after every significant trade. And what he found was not what he expected. He expected to find that his worst trades came from bad analysis. Instead, he found that his worst trades came from sessions where he felt the most certain, the most confident, the most convinced that he was right. That's the payoff I've been building toward. Write this down somewhere. The feeling of certainty is not a signal to enter. In most cases, it's a warning, because genuine conviction, the kind that comes from reading the market, clearly feels calm. It feels almost boring. It doesn't feel like fire. It doesn't feel like you need to prove something. When a trade feels like you need to win it, not just that it has a good setup, but that you personally need it to work out, that's not conviction. That's ego wearing conviction's clothes. Livermore spent years learning to tell the difference between those two feelings. And that distinction, more than any technical skill he had, is what allowed him to eventually execute one of the greatest trades in financial history. Write that down. Seriously, pause the video and write it down, because that one sentence took Livermore 2 bankruptcies to learn, and most traders never learn it at all. If this channel has ever given you something you couldn't find anywhere else, this is that moment. Subscribe, not for the algorithm, because next week I'm going to show you the other side of this, what it actually feels like when you're reading the market clearly with no ego in the way. And the difference between those two states will change how you trade forever. But applying this has one fatal weakness, and I want to be honest with you about it before this video ends. The weakness is this: knowing the concept doesn't protect you in the moment. You can understand everything I just said intellectually, completely, and still, in that 4-second window after a stop out, still feel the pull, still feel the urge, because this isn't a knowledge problem. It's a wiring problem. And wiring changes slowly, through repetition, not through understanding. So here's what actually works, not as a magic fix, but as a real practice. Before your next session, write one sentence. Just one. Something like, "I am okay with being wrong on this trade." Read it out loud. It sounds almost too simple to matter, but what you're doing is pre-committing your identity to the process, not the outcome. You're telling your brain, before the emotion arrives, that a loss is not a verdict. The second thing, build a physical break into your routine after any significant loss. Not a long one. 3 minutes. Stand up. Move. Leave the screen. This isn't a timeout from trading. It's a reset of your neurological state. It interrupts the revenge loop before it starts. And the third thing, the hardest one, is to start measuring yourself by the quality of your decisions, not the outcome of individual trades. Because a good decision that loses money is still a good decision, and a bad decision that wins money is still a bad decision. The market's short-term feedback is not a performance review. The sooner you stop treating it like one, the longer you survive. Livermore died with a complicated legacy. The man who called the crash of 1929. The man who went broke 3 times. The man who understood markets at a level almost no one in history has matched and still couldn't always outrun his own psychology. But he left behind something more valuable than his trades. He left behind an honest record of what it costs to confuse your identity with your positions, what it costs to need to be right more than you need to be profitable. You're going to take losses. That's not a possibility. It's a certainty. The question is whether those losses teach you something or whether they trigger something, whether they make you more precise or more reckless. Progress in trading doesn't look like a straight line up. It looks like a trader who takes the same loss they would have taken 6 months ago, but handles it completely differently. That's the growth. That's what compounds over time. One loss doesn't define your account. One habit does. Drop in the comments, what's the one trade you wish you had walked away from and what stopped you? I'm going to read through the responses and pull the most honest ones into the next video. Because the best lessons in this game don't come from success stories. They come from the moments we almost didn't survive. And if what I talked about today helped you see your last loss a little differently, subscribe. Not because I'm asking you to, but because this channel goes deeper on the psychology of markets every single week, and the next video covers something that makes today's topic look like the easy part.